learnt so much about ski mountaineering on this show over the last couple of months as we get closer and closer to the sport's debut at the Milano Cortina Olympics. But one nation we have not focused on is Canada, and I feel ashamed of that because we are a Canadian-Australian podcast. We've talked to Australians, we've talked to Belgians, we've talked to Americans. How have we not talked to Canadians? Well, we're breaking that duck today as we speak to one of Canada's leading ski mountaineers and an amazing story to tell of his rise in the sport. And I'm so excited to learn about it and more about him. It's a pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Aaron Robson. Aaron, welcome to Off the Podium.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here talking.
It's a pleasure to have you talking because I feel ashamed that I've shunned Canada, apparently. We've been going for nearly a decade and we're Canada and Australia all the way, and here I am taking this long to talk to a Canadian about this great sport because we really are discovering, Aaron, that this is such a great sport because I knew nothing about this sport a couple of months ago, and through the many interviews and many guests I've had on, I'm falling rapidly in love with it because you yourself were quite late to discovering this sport too, if I'm not mistaken. This is something that you have only been involved in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, I was going to say I kind of learned about it maybe only a couple of years before you did. So I've got a little bit on you, but not a ton. But also been learning very quickly on the job, so to speak.
It's got to be that way, I guess. If you're aiming to go to an Olympics, you might just sort of need to learn a little bit more about it. But you've got a big background in other sports, running, quite a prominent runner throughout your life, and I also believe that you were really pushing to be an Olympian in running, if I'm not mistaken. So tell us a little bit about sort of your journey through running, track and field, and cross country running as well.
Yeah. That was the original dream way back when I was a little kid. I started running really young, kind of when I was, I don't know, seven or eight, something like that. My mom put me in like a cross country race, just randomly without telling me about it, I think. And I ended up second in that first race to one of my friends, and we ended up continuing running all through the primary school, and it just kind of stuck with me. And as I continued to run and keep getting better, by kind of high school, college time, I was fully invested in this is my thing, this is my dream, this is where I'm going to go and give it my all. And I had all the posters of folks, Sebastian Coe and who else was it at that time? Hicham El Garouge was the 1500 runner at that time. That was kind of my like pseudo idol, and yeah, that was my thing. Spent and I invested a ton of years and a ton of time into it, but it was one of those things that just didn't work out. I had some pretty good races on and off when I was younger. Like made a couple Canadian teams and raced a couple world championships, world youth and world cross and world junior championships, but never kind of could really get beyond that to like that really top level. Once I got into college, I spent a whole lot of time injured. So it was this constant fight of like trying to get fit, getting injured, trying to get fit, getting injured. And as you might know, like that's not really a recipe for long-term success in any kind of sport. So at some point in time in there, I'd kind of put that dream to rest and, just sort of got on with life and, I was always competitive, so I never really like left sport in general. I tried for a little bit and then started biking and started racing bikes for a while and did pretty good at that in the like Texas crit racing scene of all strange things. And then kind of wandered around and kept on racing every so often. And it was only kind of when I moved to Lander here that I started doing a bunch of trail races again, kind of got back into running a little bit. And a lot of these races that were super long, trail, mountain running, 50K up, that kind of thing. I enjoyed those a lot. I was pretty good at it. But got into SkiMo from that avenue because training here in the winter is fairly miserable. And after, I don't know, 3 or 4 years of trying to like stick it out and run through the cold, snowy winter. I just kind of gave up on that and was like, screw it, I'm just gonna like start skiing because that seems like a much more pleasant activity to do when it's freezing cold out. We had a couple of years here that were just like incredible snow years, and you could ski from basically my front door.
Wow.
And that kind of got me into like just more of the ski training. And then a couple of years back, it was like I kind of on a whim bought some. I wouldn't call it not like top level race equipment, but like equipment that was just about good enough to race on, and figured why not? I'll try a couple of these races. I've raced just about every other sport I've done, so might as well give this one a shot. And it turned out pretty good.
It's like that competitive nature never goes away, right? Like once an athlete, always an athlete. You're always going to be competitive in whatever you do, and particularly if you sort of have that young dream as a kid, running, Olympics, all that sort of stuff. It sort of always feels that passion. Just when you were younger and you were in the running side of things, like I mean, was the goal was the Olympics though? So this was sort of the one that you always set that out as a kid to represent Canada at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, yeah, that was the thing. I'd I kind of remember some of the like training plans, or not training plans, but like year long plans that I'd mapped out to like the I don't even know what it would have been at that point. The 2008 Olympics, maybe the 2012 Olympics or something
Which I
like
just want to
that.
add
Like,
that you
okay,
are similarish to my age, which I like the fact that we can talk about that these are Olympics
yeah,
that I've got some young athlete here who's like, oh, and I was dreaming of 2030. Like, shut up. Like, come on.
no, this was way back then. Yeah, either the Beijing or London Games, I guess.
Mhm.
And I remember having like spreadsheet and kind of like saying like, okay, well, to make the Olympics, I've got to have this time, and then if that's the time that I have to hit in 2008, then like can I go back like 4 or 5 years or whatever, and that's kind of like, okay, I'm here, so I have to improve like 5 seconds every
Wow.
like it all mapped out. And as I said, it you know I didn't stick to my spreadsheets very well, but
But we always love a good spreadsheet, right? Like that's the thing. I mean, a good spreadsheet can make you feel good at the time, and maybe it
oh
didn't
yeah.
work out, but I'm sure you're using them now, right? Like that helps in SkiMo, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, my Canadian SkiMo teammates kind of know me as like the spreadsheet person, because I was always the one that would like go and download the like split times off of the ISMF website or the results page or whatever, and like
Good.
stick them into a spreadsheet and like mess around with them and like figure out like, oh, I got slower in this section, faster in this section. So that like analysis data piece has always been a big part of me as well. Like I was an engineer by kind of schooling,
I
and
was going to say you're a math teacher too, aren't you?
I've
So I mean, it kind of makes sense with your profession.
yeah, it's just my natural inclination. I can't get away from it.
Yeah, gotta love the numbers and all that sort of stuff. You mentioned sort of that you got into other sports, obviously, once the running wasn't
Mhm.
working. But growing up as a kid, were there other sports? I mean, as a Canadian, hockey, was that something that you sort of gave a try, or any sort of other sports like that?
There was a lot of sports. Hockey was actually not one of them.
Ah,
I'm like I hate to say I'm not the best Canadian in the world. My parents are actually British, and so I kind of grew up. And I feel like I grew up more like British than I did Canadian, at least for a while until I got a little bit older and had other influences in my life. But yeah, growing up, I even had a British accent for quite a while there, which was pretty funny to see. But yeah, I did a lot of other sports growing up as well. Played soccer for quite a while at my parents' behest, and even did some cross country skiing for a while. I think I played basketball for a few years, and actually played volleyball fairly seriously for 4 or 5 years.
right.
I even had some like competitive dreams there that got squashed fairly quickly when I stopped growing at about 5'11". But it was a fun sport to play, and
Yeah.
had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, I kind of pretty much anything I dropped into, I would end up somehow competing in some respect.
All Olympic sports too that I'm noting there as well that to go along with that. I mean, I was going to ask just on the hockey side of things.
Yeah.
I know you grew up in Edmonton, so I'm just
Mhm.
I'm a bit nervous about you answering who you go for because I'm a Flames fan, Aaron. So I just feel like we're going to get this interview off to a bad start, really. But I'm guessing you're a big Oilers man.
I was and still am now. When I moved down to the States for college for a bit, I kind of like lost touch with it, which was actually a good thing, as that was kind of some dark days for the Oilers. But I have some pretty fond memories of a young kid and kind of growing up in the I wouldn't say like heyday of the Oilers. It was sort of post Gretzky and all that kind of stuff, but it was a good scrappy team back then, and we enjoyed making the playoffs and then inevitably losing every single year to Dallas or Colorado or something like that. And
or Florida recently. I just want to rub that in, but
yeah.
Which
got a good tradition of losing to those teams.
I will say though that one thing, as much as I love to sit around and hate on Connor McDavid as a Flames fan, I am very excited. I've got tickets to hockey in Milano Cortina and I get to see Canada play. So I am very excited that I can actually cheer for him because he's an amazing player.
Oh, yeah.
So, for once in my life, I'm like, yes, come on, Connor McDavid. I can actually like you. I can like you for once.
Yeah. The NHL being back in the Olympics is so cool.
Yeah.
They've been missed. It's not quite the same.
No, the last couple of Olympics have felt a bit odd, but as we know, Canada, reigning two-time Olympic champions the last time that the NHL players were allowed. The last two Olympics don't count, let's just say that. 2010, 2014 count, 2018, 2022, Russia and Finland can have their golds, but we'll see how it goes next year. So when it came to the ski mountaineering side of things and discovering that, I mean, had you even heard of it? Had you sort of when you give this a go, try it, was it something that you were familiar with, or sort of once you get into it and then decide to pursue this, was that like, oh, okay, I might Google that, I'll look that up, let's have a look at this?
Funny enough, I was kind of aware of it because actually I'd been to a trail race like 5 or 6 years ago, and interestingly enough, the USA SkiMo team was like at that trail race, kind of recruiting people for ski mountaineering because the Olympics were coming up, and I think that was like the year that like the SkiMo got officially accepted into the Olympics or whatever it was. So in a sense, the like USA SkiMo team being at that race was kind of my first introduction to like, oh, there's this like funny form of racing in snow that's kind of like backcountry skiing, but like not quite. So I'd backcountry skied a whole lot, both back when I was living in Canada, and then even when I came down to the States, I would still go touring and stuff with friends. The racing side was definitely a newer thing, but I kind of had the like basics of like what it was kind of somewhat figured out. And the one thing I've always been kind of good at is just like learning new like physical skills. Like I've always picked things up very, very quickly. Like partly why I played a whole bunch of sports as a kid, because I could just, start something and pick it up and be decent at it like fairly quickly. And SkiMo was kind of in that similar vein, like, I need the boots and the things and the skins and all that kind of stuff, and it was just a matter of like figuring out what the like physical processes were to become more and more efficient. And those are things that I had to learn and stuff, but I was picking them up pretty quickly once I started getting into it.
And in terms of then, as you said, it was recently added as an Olympic sport. I'm sure that adds a little bit more of a desire to it too, or all of a sudden that little bulb's going off in the head, the kid dreaming of an Olympics going, well, wait a minute, this might look all right then. This could still happen.
Well, I mean, like I don't quite remember like when that like bulb maybe went off, because I could have been long turned off and the bulb probably placed into the far reaches of my brain somewhere. I don't know if it ever got taken out in the garbage or anything like that, but maybe it was still hanging around somewhere back there. But like I don't think it was on my radar like when I first started even like SkiMo racing. That was 2 years ago, and I think the first race I did was like somewhere down in Utah, the Crowbar backcountry ski race. It was a super fun race. I like totally mucked up all of the technical aspects of the sports, as like I think is like a rite of passage for anyone starting in skimo racing. I was like very fit off like kind of near the front, and just like had like multiple skin failures and skis going flying everywhere on some of these transitions, and bit of a disaster. But it was, I think, kind of just by happenstance. The second race that I ended up doing was the Wasatch Powder Keg, which is down. Interesting enough, actually, it was in Solitude, Utah that year, which is where this final World Cup
Yeah.
race in December is going to be. And I just happened to do that race, I think, because I couldn't get into another race, or I was too late to register for a different race. I signed up for it kind of on a whim, and through the urging of my wife, decided to race all the races there. So there was a vertical, there was an individual race, and then there was also this like sprint race, which like seemed like a weird thing. Like, how short is this race? Like 3 minutes? Like, I haven't raced a 3 minute race since like high school, almost literally. Like, that was the last like 1500-meter race that I think I'd done on the track. Like, even in college, I never raced that quite that short. And so it's like, oh, sure, why not? I'll try it out and see how it goes. And it turned out that I was actually quite a bit better at the short race than I was at the two longer races. And I think it was that moment of like, I think I ended up on the podium there in third and beat a couple of the like current USA skimo team members. Extenuating circumstances, one of them crashed, blah blah blah. But
Still third. I can see
like
the result in
like,
my screen right now. Number 3. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Yep. We'll edit that part out, right? No, and then so I think I like kind of got on the podium. I was like, oh, I was actually pretty good at this, and like I think this is like I think this is the thing that's in the Olympics, and like maybe there's some way that I can get on the Canadian team. Like, and so after that, I started researching like, okay, how do I get on the Canadian team? What do I have to do? And then like from there, what do I do after that? And it was kind of this like, yeah, somewhere in there was like this moment of like, oh, like that this could actually be something that comes back and harkens back all the way 20 years to when I was running around the track dreaming of the Olympics. So it was a pretty cool moment.
Meant to be. It's like, if you believe in fate, and if you don't, like, it's almost very, fate. There's lots of potential in here for CBC to be, shouting these stories when you're there in Milano Cortina next year with that. The thing that keep saying every time we get SkiMo athletes on this show, and I've had a few on the last couple of weeks, at least in the time of recording this and interviewing it, is that I admire every single one of your personalities, because I think this is one of the most unique sports collection of personalities ever. And the thing also that I'm loving about every single one of you is it's literally a sport where so many people have got, I had to look that up and realize, how do I get to, like, this is the very first person we had on to talk about this was Max. And I said, this is a very, new sport. And he's like, no, this is one of the oldest sports around. But I think in terms of what I meant with that is that it's new in that a lot of people don't realize what levels there are to get to an Olympics, because it's such a new Olympic sport, right? So it's just, there's not many times in life where you can sit around a couple of years out from an Olympics and Google, oh, how can I get to the Olympics? And here you are on the cusp of an Olympic Games. I mean, it's an amazing story, I think, for every single SkiMo athlete.
Yeah, there's so many of them similar to that. I actually had some good times this last season chatting with Max, and he's hilarious. And there's just a few other handful of other athletes that are kind of in that same vein. Like it's Max said, like it's not a new sport, but like the Olympic aspect of it is very new.
Yeah.
Like those races didn't exist in the sport five plus years ago or whatever it was. So even for the folks that have been doing skimo for a very long time, like it's the Olympic discipline aspect is a very new thing, and it's still something that is taking getting used to, and it's different enough that some athletes can transition well to it, and some are just more of that like long endurance type of athlete, and it unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, like those aren't the events that are someone somewhere decided would be a part of the SkiMo program for the first Olympics. Hoping that changes later on, just for the sake of the sport in general. But it's I can't complain too much because I think overall it probably is beneficial for me that the events are kind of where they're at. It feels like it's kind of, as you said, I don't know, meant to be, fate, whatever, but it feels like it's kind of hits my like sweet spot in terms of like where my like athletic performance and prowess is. But it's crazy, and still kind of crazy to think about, and try not to think about it too much, because if I think about it too much, it just feels weird. But just keep going, keep doing what I'm doing, and come December, we'll see where everything falls.
I promise that this interview will end on a good note, so you're not thinking about it all night after we stop recording. I mean, there might be a few questions related to it still, Aaron, but I promise by the end of it, you would have moved on to those. But I mean, speaking of that, like, earlier this year, you do your first full season. So you're going to World Cup events, you're in Azerbaijan, you're in Andorra. We're learning a lot about Andorra. I love Andorra, so I'm glad that they're sort of on this calendar. You're doing the Olympic test event, the World Championships. On the World Championships, 9th in the relay. Great result there, top 10 for that one, 44th in the sprint race at the World Championships in Switzerland. But just on the relay, because obviously we're going to focus a little bit about that shortly when it comes to qualification. But how do you find the relay discipline? Because that is slightly different to the sprint, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was alluding to, is like the relay just seems like it's like made for me. I'm not quite as good at the sprint. It's just like like at the World Cup level, it's just like so short and so fast. And I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, if I could somehow wind back the clock 20 years, I would enjoy the sprints as much as I do the relay. But it seems like, at least for how old I am now, and just what I've done, my athletic career and where it's all gone, the relay feels like I basically race the relay at the same pace that I race a sprint. Like it doesn't really feel drastically different when I'm in the race, which is kind of where I think like my sprint performance is like kind of mediocre, but on the relay side, it feels a lot better. And in combination with Emma, my partner, we've put together, when we put together some pretty solid results.
In terms of the sprint, so it's the relay. Like, this is actually one I don't think we've had really explained to us. So how does the relay work? We know how the sprint works in the Olympics, but how does the relay work with you and Emma and all of that?
It's kind of a like handoff back and forth sort of thing. There are a lot more transitions than the sprint. So it is like, of all the SkiMo races, it is you spend the most cumulative time throughout the race as a percentage of the total race time doing some sort of transition. You probably do as many transitions in a relay as you might do in an individual race. There's just a whole lot more like skiing in between those transitions when you're in an individual race. And so the World Cup format, at least, is both the male and female racers will start off with like a individual qualifying lap, which is kind of like a time trial format. Like every person goes every 30 seconds or a minute or some interval, and then the pairs that are decided beforehand. So it's kind of like a bit of a weird guessing game of like who to actually pair together. The Canadian pair, myself and Emma, have been fairly set since kind of early in the season, but there's been some other teams, the US team especially, that's kind of fluctuated, and they've put different people together. But the tricky part is you have to set your pair before the qualification time, so you don't actually know which pairing might actually be the fastest.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of strange in that regard. That is actually something I learned at, I think, the first relay. Like I think for some reason I've been under the assumption that like, everyone does this qualification and like, top male and top female from a country get paired together. But like, no, it's like you decide that beforehand. And if it happens to work that way, great. If it doesn't, then like
tough luck.
Yeah, tough luck, basically. So after that qualification, they take the top 12 countries, and that top 12 countries, like the pair times combined, will go to the A final. And the A final is 12 teams, but instead of each person doing one lap, you alternate and each person does 2 laps. So in a final race, Emma would go off first. She would do her lap, and a single lap is basically it's approximately equivalent to 2 sprint courses. So a lot of the time, it's actually literally does part of the sprint course, and then there's usually a second like climb either before or after that.
So to clarify, that's going up and down. That's a lap, like, and then okay, gotcha.
So you go up and down, up and down. That's 1 lap.
Yep.
And then you tag off, and then your partner does the same thing.
Right.
And then you tag off again. So each person does 2 of these up, down laps. Wow. And total race time usually is somewhere around 35 minutes, maybe.
Fascinating.
Plus or minus a little bit.
And is it a case where you can alternate, like, is it always female first, male, female, male, or like can you, like, we see a lot in mixed races, like in swimming and track and field, where they can alternate. Well, let's put a man up against a woman, and it all balances out at the end.
I've heard that it's not, that you could potentially mix it up.
Okay.
We were actually discussing this as a team last year of like, what, like, is this something that's legal or not? We've never seen it done. So it's always been like all of the females race first, all the males race second, or it's like female, male, female, male.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's actually set in rules. And maybe there's going to be a team somewhere out there that will like change that up. And,
it could be you. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of
put a male out there first.
Yeah. I mean, our Canadian co-host Colin, he couldn't be here with us today. He really wanted to be, but we often make fun of him because during the Olympics, he often criticizes these mixed events where it's like, oh, you can't follow it because, like, some put like all their men up first, so they're like 3 laps ahead, and then like it's confusing. I'm like, no, I love that. I love kind of seeing because it balances out at the end. Like that's what it's meant to do. Yeah. So I like it when they sort of change it up with it. It just sounds very interesting, and I think what I've learnt through this qualifying system then too, Aaron, is that what we're seeing with you and going up against the US for this final spot for North America, or the only spot for North America, is it's almost the opposite of what other sports do, in the fact that you're battling to secure this team quota for Canada, which then allows you and Emma to then compete individually, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? So if you qualify that team spot, you are then both eligible to compete in the individual event as well at the Olympics?
It's a little strange in that sense, but you qualify through the team relay. So like we would, if we end up with that spot, we would have a relay team spot, but then they also have this weird kind of weird thing where it's like, anyone who's competing in the relay can also race in a sprint spot. Because
it's usually the opposite. What I'm trying to say is like it's usually opposite when it's like you individually qualify
as an individual. Yeah.
So we see that in like say like I use snowboard cross as an example because I know Australia had that issue going into the last Olympics that we had like the world championship bronze medal team at the snowboard cross. But on the day when it came to picking that team at the Olympics, that pairing didn't do too well in the individual in Beijing, so they changed the team up. So it's it's how that works. It's interesting with that. But we've heard the American perspective of this, Aaron. We've had a couple of Americans on this show to learn about what they're doing to get this spot and to refresh people's memories. There's this World Cup in December in Utah. Basically, Canada right now are in 12th, 1 point ahead of the US in 13th. And essentially, whoever finishes ahead in this race will be going to the Olympics because North America has 1 quota spot. So right now, Canada, it's advantage Canada, 1 point ahead of the USA. I mean, we're obviously recording this in August, and this will air a little bit after this. But as of now, how are you feeling? How are you and Emma feeling? Always want to get one up on the Americans, let's be honest. I mean, confident that this 12th spot can be held onto and go up further and just beat the Americans. That's what we always want.
It's been a really cool season, and kind of a friendly rivalry between us throughout the whole season. Starting off, like everyone knew sort of where things were at starting at the start of the season. There was even some hope, and I think we've always been kind of cheering each other on in like a good sports kind of nature. There was some hope early on in the season that we could maybe even both teams could qualify because there was the possibility that was going to happen. As it turns out, I think there's just a couple too many strong teams coming out of Europe. which is, I think, left just that America's spot as the kind of one qualifying pathway for both of us, unfortunately. But I think we're kind of both in the same situation. Like both of the teams know, like there's one race. That's the chance that we both get, and I'd say, yeah, Em and I are feeling good about it. But it's also like we've been through a whole season of like a whole lot of ups and downs, and like things have broken our way, and sometimes things have gone the other way, and other times, and sometimes you're never totally confident in like how much you actually can control over those things. Even it's kind of the nature of the sport that it's not. There's a lot of it that is entirely under your control. You can prepare as well as you can, do all the training, feel as confident as you can, and sometimes it just something happens on the day, and I think there's an element of that that's just something you have to accept, and it's kind of knowing like the thing that at least for me is gives me, I don't know, confidence might not be the right word, but kind of makes me feel like satisfied about it is like I know that come December, like I will have done all the things that are in my control that are within my control to control, and I prepared as well as I can, and that's kind of sit on the start line knowing that, and then just let the race unfold as it how it will.
The positive thing I will see from this is that unlike a lot of winter sports where they're not knowing until like 2 weeks before the Olympics that they're going. At least, I mean, December's still cutting it fine, Aaron. I mean, this isn't exactly like we're doing this now in August, right? But like still like 3 months ahead of an Olympics seems a little bit, 2 months ahead of Olympics is a little bit going that way and that one as well. But I think it's also that case of it's like a Super Bowl. It's like Stanley Cup Game 7. Like you kind of know with the margins so fine, this isn't going to be a case of getting your spreadsheet out afterwards going, well, I finished 5th and they finished 7th. So if we calculate this, like you basically know that if you finish ahead of them on the course, you're going, right? That's essentially what it comes down to.
Yeah, it definitely is simple. It keeps it straightforward, which is nice. Like, as you said, there's no like, there's very little ambiguity at the end of that race as to what the outcome is going to be.
How it works. Yeah. And also, I mean, home backyard for the US, you might think advantage them, but I mean, you're living in Wyoming, so, not that far from Utah, I guess. But then also Canada's still just up the road. So are you bringing down a bunch of Team Canada, to really bring the noise and make sure that they're heard and you're getting all that support down there in Utah?
Yeah, I think there'll be a pretty good cheer squad for Team Canada. I've got a bunch of my friends here in town who are probably going to make the trek down, and family from up in Canada will come down to cheer us on and support. So having the World Cup, as you said, not at our home, but like home continent at least is a pretty cool thing.
It's the first time in like 20 years, isn't it? I think it was either Cam or Arthur told us it's been a long time since the World Cup's been in North America.
Yeah. I thought it was the first, but I don't think it's officially the first. The World Cup may have looked a little different back in the day or something like that, but it's definitely the first for a while. And I for our team, I think it's nice. It's a good advantage to have. We going over, and after experiencing last season overseas in Europe the whole time, like it's just like it's hard. Like you're constantly on the road, and even just the like nature of getting things to Europe is more difficult than it would be to like drive it down in a car from up from Canada. So for this kind of World Cup, we can, even though it's not in Canada, it feels like it's a semi-home kind of course, and we can bring a lot more of the kind of gear and stuff that we might want to have that would be tricky logistically to haul over to Europe, which it's been a season of like looking at all the other teams and being like, oh man, like it'd be nice to have some of that like stuff and like be able to just like drive an hour from like a couple hours from my home to this like course and then head back home afterwards. So finally get to experience that a little bit on our own.
And added incentive as well. that not that you need added incentive to try and qualify for an Olympics, Aaron, but I mean, like beating the US in the US, particularly after, certain situations earlier this year about, Canada-US relations. Like, I mean, just a bit of an extra, buzz there, I'm sure, should it happen in December.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely going to be some storylines around that that will stir the pot, so to speak. As I said, like our two actual SkiMo teams have been very friendly with each other, and which has been awesome. Like we've hung out and chatted with them throughout the whole season.
But the thing is, I say with that, I love that. But I got to interrupt you there, Aaron, because like we got that from the Americans too. But like I've lived in Canada, I know Canadians, I know deep down that Americans probably at the end of the day don't give two shits if they beat Canada, whereas Canadians give a shit if they beat the Americans.
It's always nice. I would say, yeah. There's a little extra element of the like, the brother to the south kind of thing, and like generally speaking, the like big brother to the south, and it always feels like I feel like we've always kind of come into that a lot of those confrontations or those sort of clashes as a bit of an underdog. I think we probably had that same sort of thing coming into this season. At least looking at like the experience levels of our team versus their team and all that kind of stuff. Like this was my first World Cup season. Emma's got a couple more years of experience on me, but not. She still hasn't raced a ton of World Cups, at least compared to someone like, Cam or Griffin on the American team who have been a part of the sport for a long time and kind of know the ins and outs a little bit more. And, we spent a lot of our season learning those ins and outs. By the end of it, we kind of felt like we belonged a little bit, which is nice. But
what you want?
We'll hopefully be able to put all those learnings together come December.
All jokes aside, and I think I said this to Cam when we had him on, something does seem a little bit off to think that only one of you can go, that only one of Canada and the US go. It doesn't seem right. As an Australian looking on the outside, winter sports, you both should be there. So let's hope that this changes a little bit by the French Alps right in 2030, because it just doesn't seem natural that only one country can go between the two of you.
Yeah, it's there's just not a lot of spots. Like what is it, 36?
Yeah,
am I getting that right? 36 total SkiMo athletes, and across the entire world. And like, we're fortunate that like Spain and France and Switzerland, some of those like well-established, well-funded countries can only take up 6 of those spots, but. As you said, it just doesn't leave a whole lot, and I'm hoping that in that next Olympic round that they expand a little bit beyond what they currently have.
Yeah, and hopefully, like Mexico doesn't get good or something like that to add extra pressure for the North American side. Just keeps it between the two.
It's the whole of the Americas too, so we got to worry about Chile.
Oh, even like South. Wow. Okay, then. All right, looking
South
further south. Okay.
South America.
Well, you lived in Africa for a bit. Then can you maybe just go? Does Africa have a spot? Can you go back and compete for Senegal or something like that? I don't know how they're tracking in SkiMo.
Like I think they could. I think there is technically an Africa's.
There you go.
Like if there was a SkiMo federation in Africa,
you could create it.
They could create their get a program together, and they would have a spot. It's kind of I know you're an Australian, so you might know a little the backstory of the Australian SkiMo team. Which they have a little more. Slightly more comfortable pathway, shall we say? It's
insane that I've discovered that, like, initially when I started reaching out to SkiMo athletes, I was looking, I'm like, Australia doesn't have any, but then all of a sudden I was like, no, there's like 300 of them going out there basically trying for it. Usually from other sports while qualifying for other sports, of course, as well. Hello, Phil, if you're listening. But it's insane. But it's like, as we've often said throughout these SkiMo interviews and comparing it to, say, like a sports climbing, or even a breaking, these newer sports in the Summer Olympics, which have either worked or haven't worked. But sports climbing is, I think, the classic example that it started off with basically like one discipline, expanded to 2 in Paris, and we're seeing more in LA. So the growth there, potential and athletes. And Winter Olympics also have a lot more room they've got a lot more spaces for athletes. Whereas summer, like they got to kick people out to bring people in.
Yeah.
You've got so much space at the Winter Olympics. So bring on more SkiMo athletes, right, Aaron? Come on.
I'd be right there with you.
We don't need that many downhill skiers. Like, we don't need that many, snowboarders. Come on, share the love. Spread it out.
We go downhill sometimes too.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't look very good.
It counts.
Don't look very good doing it, but we still do it.
It still counts. All jokes aside, though, Aaron. Like, I mean, again, I know you don't. You say you don't really trying to think about it, and it's sort of it's in the future. You'll get to December and that will happen. But like after everything you've said, dreaming of the Olympics as a kid, like what would that mean to you? What would that mean to you in December if you cross the line ahead of America and you know that this dream is a reality? You're going to an Olympic Games.
Man, I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to say. It's kind of one of those things that has existed as this like hypothetical for a while, and I don't know. I think it would just. I don't want to say like it. I don't want to say it like feels like it would justify a lot of things because I don't think that's quite the right mindset, because I think that on the flip side, like if the race doesn't go the right way, then like I don't think there's a sense that like, oh, I've like wasted wasted all this train time or whatever it was that I put into energy, effort, whatever you want to say that I put into this. So I don't know. I've been kind of enjoying the journey and enjoying the process of sort of putting myself into this and like kind of giving it a go in the committing to something like this. Mm-hmm. It's definitely something that, especially in my current position, like requires quite a bit of sacrifice. Like, I've got a job and a little daughter and family and all that kind of stuff. And unlike, I'm sure, a lot of the other athletes that I line up against to race, like a lot of other things that are kind of competing for my time and weighing on me when I go into those races. But at the same time, like I think a lot of those things provide a even greater reward at the end. So I think I'm hoping that whatever the result is in December, that I kind of finish that race, and if it's the result that I wanted, like great, like okay, this dream has happened. I get to share it with my daughter and tell her about it for her life, and be one of those things I can like look back on and be like, yeah, I did that thing. Like I did that thing. But I also have to be okay with like, if it doesn't go my way, like I still did the thing. Like I still put myself out there and put myself, kind of went for this like ambitious goal, this thing that I didn't think for a very long time in my life was ever going to happen. And, I think I just want to like come into that race feeling like, okay, this is, I'm at peace, however this goes, because I know like the process to get there has been like worthwhile in and of itself.
Great answer. Love hearing that. And also family vacation to Italy, if it all does go right as well. So, get to go there.
Yeah.
Not bad.
We already had we had a little trial vacation this past World Cup season. My wife and daughter came out for about 5 weeks of the season to kind of travel the circuit with me, and it was great. It was awesome. Like it was super cool. Like showing my little 4-year-olds, 3 at the time, I think, kind of the ins and outs of the races, and having her on the sidelines cheering and everything was pretty cool. And
fantastic.
So yeah, like it comes with its own challenges of like managing all that time and everything. But as I said, like it's also a really neat experience to be able to show her, and something that she's 4, she doesn't entirely comprehend everything that's going on and all the things that have gone into it. But when she gets older, it's certainly something that I can look back on with her and kind of explain to her like, oh yeah, this is like, remember when you were 4 and like maybe you remember those like weird things that you went to and the like delicious croissants that you ate. Like that's probably what you remember. That was actually like this whole thing, and going to the Olympics, and she may or may not end up as an athlete, but whatever she ends up in, like I think that's lesson of like when you have an opportunity, seize it and go for it is
Absolutely.
it's a good thing to be able to kind of share with her and point her towards.
Get all the mascots from the Olympics who are over my head slightly. If you can see, I've got a Milo there from the game. So they always love the mascots. I mean, I'm a 38-year-old man, Aaron, and I love the mascots. What can I say? But
Oh yeah.
Who can go wrong with the mascot? We're going to get to our 10 wrap-up questions in just a moment. A couple of things I wanted to touch on. I mentioned Senegal. I'd just love to hear briefly from that because if I'm not mistaken, your wife was in the Peace Corps. Is this correct in Senegal? Like, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a cool time in both of our lives. We actually met just before she left for the Peace Corps at University of Washington in Seattle. We were both like students there, and kind of we met and kind of hit it off. And 6 or 7 months later, she hopped on a plane and took off for Senegal. And I was at the time like not totally sold on like whether or not I was going to stay and finish my like PhD at that point or do something else. And I ended up kind of going back to Canada for a little bit, and then went over to visit her. I don't know, 4 or 5 months after, and was like, oh, this is like kind of cool, and like I don't really have any like reason to stay back in Canada. I was, just working some odd jobs here and there. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll come over here and see what there is for me here. So did that, moved over to Senegal. And my wife was in the Peace Corps. I was Canadian, and the United States Peace Corps does not officially accept Canadians into it. So I was kind of an unofficial sort of part of their Peace Corps program, but not really. It's like I was kind of doing my own thing at the same time, and got an apartment, got a job working at the international school, which is actually kind of where I got into the whole math teaching thing. And
right.
And then we ended up spending, I think I was there for almost 2 years, and
wow,
had a great time. It was a really, really cool experience. Like, it's a beautiful country, and the people there were amazing. My wife lived in a little village of 500 people, kind of in one of the more rural areas of the country, and I'd go visit her every so often and stay with her down there. And there was just like, for folks that were definitely not living with a whole lot of spare money, so like welcoming, and it was just a cool place to be, and cool experience to have for those handful of years that we were there.
Fantastic. Good to hear. And as I said, things don't work out a certain way with SkiMo for Canada. Senegal, why not? 2030. That's a big story. The other one I wanted to touch on, your fundraising to get to Milano Cortina. I don't know if I'm pronouncing. Is it Vogan verse? How do you pronounce that? Because this is amazing. This is basically you are getting people to donate money, and then poetry gets created from this, right, Aaron? So explain this, because I love everything about this. I love.
It's Vogue verse, and it's a nod to Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, of course, right? Yeah, okay.
Of which both my wife and I are huge fans of. And oh man, the genesis of this was pretty random. One of my supporters is Can Fund, which is like Canadian Athletes Now Fund, and they're kind of an independent nonprofit that does a lot of fundraising and helps out aspiring Olympic athletes with some kind of grant funding to essentially try and help them out. Canadian sport is not the most like well-funded sports system in the world, if you could believe it. And I think they've funded almost, I think the stats are somewhere like 80 or 85% of all Canadian Olympians have like received some sort of funding from this group. And they do a cool thing where like they will fund you, but they also, like, as part of that funding, you pledge to also help out with like fundraising for them. And this was kind of our this was our idea for like what to do. I was thinking very hard about like what on earth can I do for fundraising. It was like not my thing. Like, I am not particularly well versed in any of that stuff. Like, I'd seen some examples of people who had done like paintings and like stitch other like knitting projects and like all these like very artsy and craftsy things, and like that's just like not exactly my wheelhouse. So my wife kind of came up with this idea, well, like maybe you could do something artsy, but like satirical artsy. So like it can be artsy, but it can be like really bad, but so bad that it's actually kind of funny. And so we, yeah, we put together this sort of like SkiMo poetry idea, and pretty simple concept. Like you send me $10, and I will send you a poem that includes a word slash theme of your choice, and we, it's sort of taken a life of its own to the point where like the poems have been turning into like miniature epics around about like I don't know, like they're just crazy, but like amazing in the same sense. I think one of the folks that I sent it to was like, "Oh, this actually kind of sounds like the cremation of Sam McGee." I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's like this Arctic ballad poem, and it's like this huge long narrative, like pretty famous thing. And I was like, "Oh, well, that's like." Feels kind of honored to be compared to that kind of thing.
And so do you write these yourself? Like, is this you writing these poems after you get the word?
Yeah, we do a little bit of hocus pocus on the computer to mostly to help us rhyme, because like I cannot think of rhymes as this well. But the whole like idea of like, okay, like got this word, and most of the people that are sending these things in I like know to some extent. So there's I've tried to like add a little bit of personal touch to a lot of these, because I kind of like know the person, and like one of the folks who sent them in is like our this groomer in town who does a lot of the like Nordic grooming for here, and he was this like 70-year-old kind of wizened guy, and so like his the poem for him was like kind of this like he's this legendary like figure driving the groomer around in the middle of the night, and like I'm trying to like go and ski up and down these trails, and he's laughing at me, and so it's there's a little bit of absurdity in them, and I use some computer hocus pocus to like figure out some of the rhymes and stuff like that. The like general theme of like, okay, here's the word, like what's the like story of this poem?
Yeah,
is stuff that I've got to spend a decent chunk of time kind of thinking through, and hopefully coming up with something that
they're pretty epic. They're so like if people. So I mean, I love your website, by the way, aaronrobsonskimo.com. Always appreciate a website for a guest. It makes my job easier. But I'm looking through some of here. So there's one here that was based on the word gnome, which is salute to the porch gnome. Now, I'm not going to read all of this because it's lengthy, but starts off with, at dawn I chase mountains with skins and regret. Counting heartbeats and calories I'll never forget. The frostbite's harder than common sense, and my goggles fog up in self-defense. I ski the wind, choose bone to dust. Where fun is an avalanche, you must almost trust. Every stride's a bargain with gravity's whim, and the summit always looks further than slim. It's a great poem. I'm not going to read all of it, but I mean, it's just fun. It's whimsical. I love that. We're recording this in August. Now, have I missed the cutoff? Because I have seen you've posted that this ended a couple of days ago, or are you still going? Because I see here that you've got 42 out of 50 that you were trying to reach. Have you extended this at all?
I think we're going to extend it for another week or two.
Right. I'm gonna once we're done with this, I'm gonna submit my $10, and I tell you what. So my word is going to be, it's going to sound weird, but I'll explain it. It's going to be cherry. Now, above Milo and Frisia, you can see an orange sort of thing. That's our show's mascot, Cherry. I'll send you a photo of what Cherry is. He's our mascot. He's a chair created basically by Colin, who threw a chair back in Tokyo. We wouldn't give Penny Alexiak the athlete of the day. He got angry. He threw a chair. That's what Canadians do, apparently, when you piss them off. So I will donate. I will send you a picture.
Oh, lovely.
And if you come up with a poem on dear old Cherry, his story of adversity, coming back from being thrown across the room and being an inspiration to all Olympic podcasters. So,
lovely.
That helps. I will
backstory is super helpful.
Yeah.
The backstory is super helpful.
Okay.
We'll do something good with that one.
We'll do that. Obviously, at the time people are probably hearing this, it's long gone, but we will share all of this on our pages, and people can check it out. But what a great way to do it. I love that. That is a fantastic way, and I absolutely love these poems. And one more thing, actually, Aaron, before we get to the final 10, a little birdie told me a story about you that apparently when it comes to competitions, you're a little bit cursed with your equipment. that apparently you often will break your skis, break poles. And I was even told there was an event that you broke a ski and a pole within 10 minutes of competing. Now, is this a thing that you have a bit of a bad luck when it comes to breaking equipment and your poles and everything in competitions?
Yeah. I don't know. I can't. It's hard to say if it's just been random chance or if there's just something lovely about me that attracts that kind of thing. But yeah, I had a few. I had a couple of funny calls in this past season of breaking random things. I snapped a pole. I snapped a pole within the first 10 or 20 meters of the sprint race in Bormio.
Wow.
It's probably one of the, I think I was feeling the like fittest I'd felt maybe the entire season, at least in a sprint race. And it was, started off great and like the rest of the race went great, but I still snapped a pole and I was going along for a while. And it was, I think one of the helpful German coaches like threw me a pole. So I at least had something. It wasn't like the right length or like couldn't clip into it properly, but at least had something for that. And then, and the other one was, at the World Championships where we finished ninth in that relay event in the final on the very first lap of the final. I was coming down the descent, down the very first descent, and just like didn't quite take the corner right and went head over heels and snapped my ski almost completely in half. Fortunately, not entirely in half because I actually had to finish the rest of that lap on that broken ski. So which was a little harrowing, but I made it back down for that lap and was able to switch out to a spare ski for the second lap. But yeah, we've had a few equipment.
Keep an eye on this in Milano Cortina, basically. That's what we're going to see. Kind of going along those ways. We'll cross everything that the skis don't break when it matters most. Particularly in December.
Fingers crossed.
So, we'll do that. Aaron, we wrap up every interview set of 10 standardized questions that we give all of our guests. And I'll start off with the first one of what is the one thing you never leave home without when traveling to a competition?
Ooh, aside from all of the actual gear, skis and boots and all that kind of thing, the one maybe unexpected thing that I will not leave home without is I will always ask my daughter for a friend to bring along to competition with. So she will provide me with one of her 1,000 stuffed animals to accompany me to these races. So
wow,
last season it was a little otter that was my most frequent traveling companion.
Oh, great, fantastic! What a great story. And they bring luck, I'm assuming. Of course they do. What a silly question, Ben. They've got to bring some level of luck.
I hope so. I might need to switch it out and see if that improves the equipment breakage rate. But
maybe the otter makes the equipment break more, so maybe we'll bring in a teddy or something like that, or change it
a little fuzzier.
Yeah, go along those lines. This maybe almost answers that question as well. A traditional superstition you follow before every big competition.
I have a pretty set like morning routine of like breakfast and everything like that I will very, very rarely deviate from. So like wake up a certain amount of time and the breakfast is almost always the same of like banana and like some sort of toast and that kind of thing. So I've got that. That's probably my biggest superstition. I don't think there's really a whole lot else that don't rub any weird rocks or anything like that. But
kissing a lucky egg,
pretty
not
well
bobsled style.
No. It's I'm 38 years old now. I've had plenty of years to dial that routine in now.
I appreciate again that you are my age, essentially. That's good to hear. But it's actually on that, because I think a lot of the SkiMo athletes have had obviously are very new into it and sort of, mainly in their 20s. But is it a sport that, a lot of endurance sports do seem to help when you're older? It seems to be something like that. The older you get, and we see a lot of marathon runners like well into their 40s, don't we? So is it a sport that you think is very much attuned to people of your age or older?
I think you can still like perform at a very high level when at like my age and older in it. I've especially noticed that this past couple of years, like if I can't run as much as I used to. Like I'm just older, like running downhill, especially like I just hate, it's like the worst thing in the world. And like, my body doesn't quite rebound like it used to in a lot of these ways. And, skimo is kind of a nice, like it's sort of like running, but then you get to slide downhill instead of like bang yourself into obscurity. So it's a nice sport for that kind of thing. And, a lot of people have a lot of experience with it. So it's also a sufficiently technical sport that experience does count for a lot. It can kind of make up for some of the like, I don't know, youthful exuberance, so to speak.
Bloody children taking over all these sports, right? Come on. What's going on there? Which actually, we used to ask a question in one of these closing sections where it was like, what is the first Olympics you remember watching? Given you're my age and given this makes me feel good when I can ask you this question, do you what was the first Olympics you ever remember watching as a child?
Oh, I have very, very clear memories of watching the '96 Atlanta Olympics.
Good.
And the specific moment is Donovan Bailey's 4x100 meter relay anchor leg when Canada going up against the favorite American team. Perhaps some parallels here.
Hey.
And they're that quartet just running a spectacular race, and then the Donovan Bailey's like iconic picture of him like running down the final straight and then like sticking the baton up in the air as he crosses that line in Atlanta in the United States to take home the gold. That was a pretty cool very, very, very vivid memories of that.
Even sadder that I don't have Colin on the show right now because he has prominently behind him at his desk that picture. And we've had Donovan on a couple of times, and in one of his interviews he talks about that relay. So if you haven't heard it, definitely check it out. But
I'll have to go check that out. Yeah,
great guy. We love Donovan on this show. A song that is on every one of your pre-competition playlists, no matter what.
Oh, that's an interesting one because maybe this gets into the superstition of like I don't really listen to music pre-competition, so silence.
Is it like nature? Like I've discovered that. I think we had Alex Palazzo on recently in Australian Loser, and he sort of touched on like sometimes it's more about soaking in that atmosphere and kind of taking it in.
Yeah, I do. I will say that kind of feels right. Like especially with a lot of these competitions, like the SkiMo competitions, they're up in the mountains. They're in like beautiful places, and something I have tried to do, and with varying success depending on where you're at. But like at some point in time in that warm up, just like try and escape off to like a slightly quieter part of the venue or whatever it is, and just sort of like be at peace and look around. And usually it's beautiful mountains that you're surrounded by, and that would be my song or my
That's perfect song.
Grounding superstition there.
No, that works. I like that. The most unexpected or funny DM that you've ever gotten as an athlete, besides being asked to be on a random Australian Canadian podcast?
Oh. I've gotten some kind of strange, like interesting requests for like advice about not about schema, but just like random advice from random people, like curious about like sometimes it's training and sometimes it's like route selection, and it's like some guy that I've never heard of who's like seen something on my Strava and like asked me like, hey, how is this thing, or how is this like route that you've done, just like totally out of the blue. That's probably my like strangest DM kind of stuff.
Do you respond?
I do kind of like it though. It's fun.
Do you? I guess you must respond.
I do. It's kind of cool. Like it's like, oh, you like, because they're not like well-known routes. Like I live in Wyoming. There's like not very many people here. So anytime someone like contacts me about that, it's like, oh yeah, this is actually really cool. Like nobody else knows about it, but
wow. And you'll see him next time. You'll be like, hey, you're the guy that messaged me.
Yeah.
How you doing? There you are. Fantastic.
Yeah. We live in a small enough town that happens pretty frequently.
I can imagine. That's crazy. The weirdest thing you've ever eaten at an international competition, and did you like it?
I think the weirdest thing I've ever eaten, there are some pretty weird, like gel, not gel, but like, oh no, actually, I know exactly what this is. So at the end of this, post race in all of these SkiMo events, the like local organizing committee is required to like have some sort of like spread for the athletes or like post race food kind of thing for the athletes. And I think my favorite was definitely up in Azerbaijan. Well, favorite and definitely the weirdest was up in Azerbaijan, and the like stuff that they had at the post race table in Azerbaijan was just unbelievable. Like incredible amounts of just like pastries and other kinds of things, but also a pretty well stocked bar.
Wow.
With like a bunch of hard liquor and stuff, which I did not try. But like some of like just the food that they had there was incredible, and I'd say there were some things that I was not willing to try. There was some kind of strange things that I did try that were all pretty damn good, like weird little pastries and
it's like Azerbaijani flavored pastries or things like that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And they were surprisingly delicious.
Wow. So do you know what like flavors they are, or is it kind of just like a lucky dip? Like, oh, this could be horse, this could be chicken. I don't know.
I don't think it was anything too crazy. It was more just like some weird, like kind of maybe some other more traditional spices or anything like that. It was they weren't too, it wasn't too off beaten path or anything like that.
Didn't know Azerbaijan were known for their drinking, but hey, maybe they are.
Who knows?
Can't say I know much about Azerbaijan outside of a few things. So there you go. Maybe the drinking one's there. I mean, on the food page, Aaron, what's your ultimate guilty pleasure meal after a big competition?
Oh man. Probably if I'm on the road, if I'm on the road in Europe, it's almost certainly pizza in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because you can get them for like €8 and they're delicious, and so might go through two of them post race.
You might need it by then.
So cheap and delicious. Yeah, I'd say pizza on the road. If I'm back home, it's usually like like really really good burger and fries.
Okay.
They're just like a very hearty kind of burger.
Get into it. I'm probably my favorite food is a Canadian food. It's poutine. I do love me some poutine.
That is, yeah.
I do live in a country where technically it's illegal to make genuine poutine because cheese curds are actually illegal in Australia. So,
goodness.
Yeah, every place you go to is we make poutine. It's just fucking grated cheese or mozzarella. It's like fucking this is not real.
Not the same.
No.
I know. No. I am a poutine purist, so I apprate the
I did connect through Montreal earlier this year, and as soon as I got off that plane, I'm like, all right, where do I go? Where's straight away? It's been a while since I've been in Montreal. I need to find some. Come on, this is where it's from. So miss it so much. If you could swap sports for a day with another Olympian, what event would you choose, and how do you think you'd go?
Oh, I would if I could be guaranteed to not kill myself, I would probably swap sports with one of the like alpine skiing downhill going very fast sports.
Okay.
Just because they're so cool.
Yep.
I would need the guarantee that I would not kill myself though, because I
would help.
could see that happening very, very quickly.
Yes. Equipment would break, maybe, who knows?
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. We were when they held the Bormio test event, it was on the same slope as the alpine downhill that the alpine downhill racers will come down. Our entire course like almost fits in the like finishing area of the alpine downhill course, which is bonkers. But we did take a like lap up to and ski down the downhill course just kind of after one of the races, and it was just incredible to think about like what those like racers are doing when they go down that course. Like, we were like not skiing slowly down it, but like also not ripping it at downhill speeds, and it was
flying like Michaela Schifrin or something like that going down that slope.
It's unbelievable what they do.
Yeah, insane.
Just crazy, but I think it'd be fun to experience once.
Pretty, I mean, like I've said a few times on this show, like, there's a reason why someone like a Noah Lyles and Usain Bolt, Andre de Grasse are like, cocky and confident, because that must feel pretty cool to run that fast. But it's the same with a skier. If you can rip it down a mountain that fast, put together a perfect run, cross that line, and look up at that clock, like you're gonna feel pretty confident that night, I think. So,
Yeah.
Just on that level of that one. I love this question because we always get a bit of help with ChatGPT with this one. If your Olympic journey were a movie, Aaron, what would the title be and who would play you?
Um,
I don't know if you've ever gotten doppelgangers before of people who, I mean, there's somebody who I think you do look very much like. He's not an actor, but I'll get to that in a moment.
I don't know. I'd have to go. I have to go with one of those, like, I don't know exactly what the title might be, like maybe like The Comeback Kid or something like that. One of those like very soppy, like, like old washed up superstar kind of like second chance at things would definitely be the overall theme. I don't know, like The Replacements or something like that, where you got a bunch of old dudes that
so
go.
That was F1 the movie, didn't we?
won.
With Brad Pitt, 30 years after he raced, coming back and doing that one. I like that. I mean, ChatGPT gives us me like, pretty dumb titles. They're not brilliant. Although I reworked it. Initially, we had one, and so I'll show you the first one I initially had, and I'll leave, people who are listening, go to our video one right now. So initially, I went with the one they called Peaks of the True North, a climb for the ages. And we've got a very Canadian sky. I think that's a Canadian goose there flying above a mountain.
Oh,
and there's a moose up your butt there. Don't know what's going on with that moose.
Great.
But then I changed it. I'm like, well, let's get some poetry going on here. So we've changed it now, and then ChatGPT came up with the poet of the peaks. The summit is not the only victory. It's a very similar sort of stoic look going on there, all the maple leaves in the background and all that kind of stuff. So that's not too bad.
The goose in there, I see.
Yeah, but the moose this time around has moved a little bit away from your butt, so you're not so scared of the moose there. Yeah, and I think is that a beaver going on in the bottom there? I think there's a beaver up your butt now. So
yeah.
Okay.
They had to add the beaver for the Canadians.
Apparently. I was going to say, like, in terms of people I think you resemble, Chris Martin from Coldplay. Surely you've gotten that. You've got a bit of Chris Martin about you.
I don't think I've ever gotten that, and now I have to look it up.
There you go. I think just with the beard, sort of the facial structure, I think there's very much a bit of a Chris Martin about you.
All right, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
No, that's been one of the people have asked me about doppelgangers, and I don't really feel like I've ever had anyone come up with one that I've been like, oh yeah, that's definitely the one.
Okay.
Same thing with nicknames. I've never had a nickname that stuck. Just for, I don't know, maybe it's the same reason. But Chris Martin from Coldplay, that's a good, interesting one.
I'm trying to put the Australian hat on for a nickname. So you'd be like an Azza or a Robbo. Or something like we just, shorten them and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
so.
I did get Robbo. I had a New Zealand teammate in my college track, and he definitely went with Robbo.
Robbo, yeah. I had an Aaron friend in high school, and we'd call him Azza.
Interesting.
Azza, how you going? Although I will say, I living in Canada, I was in a relationship with a Canadian. I always used to love. She had a friend called Erin. And then I knew someone called Aaron. And in your accent, sounds exactly the same. So she'd be going oh, Aaron. I'm like, well, who are you talking about? Which one right now? Is it Aaron or Aaron? Like right now, distinguish who you're talking about. So often maybe, I don't know if you ever get called Aaron by mistake, but that's just.
Oh, all the time. All the time. It's in the US, I've just kind of stopped correcting people about it because it's too much work. But
Americans are the worst at that. I mean, my name is simple as Ben. You would think Americans can fucking pronounce. No. They look at you. What's your name? They hear the accent. And they straight away look at you like, I don't understand you. I'm like, come on. What is the one question you're tired of being asked, and what is the one you wish people would ask you instead?
Oh, that's a good question. Can I answer this question? I think the question I'm most tired of hearing is, I don't know, maybe is it how old are you?
Okay.
Get that one a lot.
In a
But
positive or a negative way? Like, is that their way of saying like, oh, you look younger than you
it's on,
are, or
it's no, I think it's more of like when they, I think it's more of like the like, oh, you're how old and still doing this kind of thing,
right?
in that sort of vein. Um, and then I don't know. I think the one question I would love if people would ask more, and this is like more generally just about life. It's just like, how are you feeling today?
Hmm.
It's a good question.
That's a good.
I
That's
don't
a good
feel
one.
like people ask that question enough.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that.
because
Yeah,
yeah, well, there's always this like, oh, how are you doing? But it's like you don't really mean like, how are you doing? It's just like the
yeah.
colloquial greeting kind of thing. But
How's your
like,
weekend?
you know,
You're just like, yeah, whatever,
yeah,
that sort of stuff.
it's great.
Well,
It's
how are
good.
you feeling
But
today, Aaron? How are you feeling today? Let me ask you that. I'll steal it from your playbook.
oh, thanks. That's good. That's good. I'm feeling a little tired, but like pretty in a pretty good mood generally.
Good.
It was stinking hot today, and I had a nice little training session that was a multi-sport training session that also it involved picking my kid up from camp, which is kind of my oft frequent training MO. So I like biked up a little ways, went for a run, came back and biked over to my kid's camp and picked her up from camp on the bike and then rode home. So, as a parent and athlete, like I have to combine my training with those things quite
Smart.
frequently. So this was a great day for it.
That's good. Well, there you go. I like that. Maybe we'll just make this moving on. We'll just make it an 11 question wing. We're like, how are you feeling today? How are you doing? Let's get to that nitty gritty. The last one. It's a deep one we end on, Aaron, but always
Mhm.
ends up with I feel a bit of a positive note. What's one lesson you've learned from losing that you think has shaped you more than winning?
Hmm. Oh man, that is a deep one.
It is deep.
Um,
You can answer like
I
Max, and Max
think.
is just like, I don't lose. So,
Oh no, I've lost plenty of times. I've lost plenty of times. A lot very experienced in this regard. I think, and this is like thinking long term, like throughout my entire athletic career, that like that the thing that like losing has taught me is that like um it's that like you shouldn't define yourself based on like this one thing or this one sport, like, and I think losing both in the like competitive sense but also in like the losing of the sport or like losing of opportunities and that kind of thing, which is, as we've kind of mentioned before, like I had dreams and all that kind of stuff, and like those disappeared, those went away, and for a while that was very difficult for me because I'd kind of like wrap myself so much up in like the identity of like who I was with that sport, and I felt like you kind of have to like lose or like have that taken away in some regard to like really kind of learn the lesson of like it's a lot healthier and better for you overall if your identity is not wholly wrapped up in this one thing that you're trying to pursue.
Yeah.
So, even now it's pursuing SkiMo, it's like I'm fairly heavily invested, but like it's not my identity at this point. And I think that's a good lesson to try and pass on, especially for young kids, because if it's one of those hard things that like you kind of have to go through it to experience it, because if someone had told me as a 18-year-old or whatever told me that, I don't think I would have listened.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um, as best you can, like appreciate it and try and internalize it.
Great answer. I love that. And as I always say at this point, that's why we end the interview on that question, because it brings a nice little bow on it. Aaron, mate, it's been an absolute honor to chat with you. I've mentioned your website, aaronrobsonskimo.com, but social media, people can follow you, sort of this journey between now, the Olympics and beyond. Where can they check you out?
I'm a not super frequent, but occasional poster on Instagram at aaron.m.robson. And either that or the website are probably the best places to follow along with the journey.
Great website. As I said, I appreciate so much whenever I have a guest has a website, and then it's just easy to find a lot of information on the one page. It makes it so much easier. So thank you so much. But we're going to cross all fingers, toes, everything between now and the Olympics, and that everything goes your way. And no matter what happens, we'll get you back on. We'll have a chat and find out how it all went.
Right on. Perfect. Thanks a lot, Ben. It was a super fun time talking with you.